A very good evening and welcome along to We're Not Really Here. Thank you so much for joining us. It has been quite the few days for football, and we could not begin, of course, by talking about that. So I'm going to bring in Paul Dickov here and just say, Paul, crazy 48 hours. What have you made of the ESL?
Yeah, well, it was a mad 48 hours for everybody. A lot of uncertainty, a lot of anger from a lot of people. But for me, one of the most important things was, last night Manchester City were the first club to pull out, which was 100% the right thing to do. Mm-hmm. I know Ferran's come out today and sent a sincere apology out to the fans, which yet again was 100% the right thing to do. Mm-hmm. Because the fans are the fabric of this football club. And I think moving forward now, it's going to be difficult to sweep it under the table. But look, we've got a big game tonight coming up against Aston Villa, Premier League to win, Carabao Cup to win at the weekend, and Champions League as well, so... Yeah. I think it's important that we focus on that. The players and Pep will be focused on that going forward. And as much as it was crazy, let's win stuff towards the end of the season.
That's indeed so much to focus on, as you say, Paula, and not just Manchester City's men's first 11 as well. We've got so much to bring you in the show. We're going to be talking about our EDS team in a little bit, but first we've got the small matter at hand of a big game currently happening over at the Academy Stadium. It is a top of the table clash in the WSL, and we can now go to our social reporter Abby, who is there watching the game for us from the Academy Stadium, giving us a little update. I mean, this is all very high tech. Abby, how's it going?
Yes, hello from here at the Academy Stadium. I wish I was bringing you a bit of a better scoreline, to be honest, because unfortunately at the moment we are trailing 2-1 to Chelsea. It has been, we knew it was going to be an intense game, but boy oh boy has it been intense here. First half, instant response there with Chloe Kelly getting the equaliser, but then we were unfortunate to concede a penalty. But second half is much of the same. Piling on the pressure, looking super, super intense. Chloe Kelly, we spoke about her before in the show about what a talent she is, and she's looking really, really strong. Alex Greenwood as well has been brilliant, making some absolutely crucial tackles and an off-the-line clearance as well. Hopefully when I next speak to you, it will be with better news and a better scoreline, but back to you guys in the studio.
Abby, thank you so much. We're going to be checking in with Abby a little bit later on a couple of points, which is going to help us, bring us up to speed, and fingers crossed we'll be getting that equaliser and that all-important winning goal. Thank you so much to Abby. But let's talk about tonight. Now, unfortunately, of course, as Paul mentioned at the top of the show, quadruple is off the table for this season anyway, but we've still got the matter at hand of a League Cup final to come. Of course, a Champions League semi-final clash with PSG and a Premier League crown to secure. Now, in our way today is Aston Villa. We're away at Villa Park, and here to talk about this game are two absolute greats and legends in the form of Paul Dickov and Richard Dunne. Richard, great to be with you. Of course, two clubs you know quite well. How are you feeling about tonight's game for both teams, I guess?
In terms of who I'm supporting tonight, it's definitely City. I had 4 years at Aston Villa, which I enjoyed very much, but I still live in Manchester, and this is where I feel like home is, I suppose. But in terms of the game itself, I think City have to bounce back from the weekend. Obviously disappointing to get knocked out of the cup in the semi-final, and for Aston Villa, they've been probably off form in recent weeks, and certainly since Jack Grealish has been out, they've struggled to be creative and get goals. So it's a big game for both teams. They both need to win it, and for different reasons, obviously. But it has the makings of an exciting match.
It really, really does. And you mentioned about the reaction there, Richard. How important is that, Paul, given that we're going for, as you said, we've got a League Cup final, Champions League, and the Premier League to win?
Yeah, but the one thing this team has always done when they lose a game, which isn't very often, mind you, is bounce back in the right way, and there's a winning mentality about them, and, they'll have a look at the league table. There's 6 games left now, and we can extend that lead again to 11 points tonight, and the team that's out is very strong, be fresh again. And they don't like losing. A couple of weeks ago, lost against Leeds and put that brilliant performance in against Dortmund. Unfortunately, under par performance against Chelsea on Saturday, but I fully expect them to bounce back tonight.
And the team doing that bouncing back looks like this. Of course, chosen by our manager, Pep Guardiola. Here is Manchester City's starting 11, taking on Aston Villa at Villa Park. 8:15 kickoff. It looks like this. Ederson starts in goal. We have a back four consisting of Kyle Walker, Ruben Diaz, John Stones and Oli Zinchenko. Rodri sitting in a midfield three alongside Gundogan and Bernardo Silva. And across the front three, it seems Jesus is playing down the middle with Riyad Mahrez and Phil Foden either side. As we look to our subs bench, Zach Steffen is there in case anything happens to Ederson. We've got Ake, Sterling, Laporte, Torres, Mendy, Fernandinho, Cancelo and Garcia. Gundogan, of course, captaining the side as well this evening. So a few changes from that game against Chelsea. Do you think that was to be expected, Richard?
Yeah, I think in recent weeks he's changed the team around quite a lot, from game to game. And we look at the squad every time we look at it. We look at the bench and we say, well, the bench is as strong as that. And so these players have to play. We've got some big games coming up. Obviously tonight, but in with the Champions League also as well. So when those players are needed, they need to have game time in their legs, and they need to be fresh, and they need to be ready to play, and that's what we've got with this squad. So it's there's no surprises for me in the team. I think whatever 11 you pick from that squad is always a side that you fancy to win games.
And off that, there was maybe a few questions after the weekend of going, had you maybe played a few players from the middle of the week, and although rotation's been so key given the busy fixture period, Paul, the argument of going, would you have changed so much personnel? Does it become redundant because we are competing on all four fronts?
I think he's got to. The squad, as Dunne said there, is fantastic. The players that are on the bench would get most Premier League teams every week, regardless of what changes that he makes. And when you're competing on the fronts that we're competing on, you have to use the squad. It's as simple as that. But looking at the team tonight, I'm not going to say that's our strongest team, because KDB's out, but a majority of that team were the team that went in that 22 match winning run. Gundogan was fantastic in there, Phil, Riyad Mahrez, the back four, Walker, Diaz, Stones, Zinchenko, maybe you could put Cancelo in there, but that's the basis of the team that went in that great run.
Yeah.
And, regardless of what team he's going to put out, everybody's going to be needed from now to the end of the season.
It's funny as well, I think sometimes we can get a little bit lost when we lose a game, but really important to remember those things there, Paul. Thank you. Well, speaking of Gundogan, actually, captaining the side tonight, we can hear now what he had to say ahead of our game against Aston Villa.
Okay, what are your thoughts going into tonight's game?
Tough opponent. They made us struggle in the first leg, so we know that we need to be prepared for a difficult game.
Also, having lost your previous two games, how important is it you get back to winning matches?
Very important. That's the main target right now. We came here to win the game, and we prepared the game like we did every other game. Obviously, tough 48 hours for world football, but we feel we are ready and we want to go.
Not just looking for the 3 points tonight in terms of closing in on the league title, but also you need to get yourself in the right frame of mind for the cup final at the weekend as well.
Yeah, every game feels like a final right now. So there are just a few games left and then the season is over. So we are going towards the end. Even more, it's important in this decisive time, this decisive period, to win games. Doesn't really matter how these days. As I said before, we came here to win, and obviously that's the main target.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, Gundogan there speaking ahead of our game against Aston Villa. Captain tonight, Richard, of course, something for a role that you know all too well. What do you, I was a little bit surprised I've been seeing that, but do you think he has all the makings of a good captain?
Yeah, I think the way he's taken on the responsibility to be the one who's scoring goals from midfield this season suggests he's got it within him. He's probably not the most vocal of people. He seems like he's quite quietly spoken, but players respond to other players who drive forward, who drive the team forward. And I think when you look at him, he is that sort of player. He wants to get in the box, he wants to score goals, and he wants to improve the team. So I think he's a great choice. And look throughout the squad, there's captains everywhere, I suppose, with him, but certainly Gundogan, his performances this season merit the captaincy at the moment. And
another player I think who drives us forward and was very obvious to see at the weekend was Phil Foden. Do you think he's really over the last few weeks kind of shown why he maybe wants to be starting every game, Paul?
I think he's shown it over the course of the season, Kel. I think he's been outstanding, whether he's come off the bench. He always seems to have an impact on the game. The games he started, at his age, to put in a performance in a Champions League quarter-final that he did against Dortmund, in both legs. The second half year he was outstanding, and over the course of the game in Dortmund he was, and people keep talking about him being the next big thing. He's the real deal now. He's starting at Manchester City, the best team for me in Europe. He looks as if he's going to be starting for England at his age, and he's just getting better and better all the time. And talking about responsibility, he takes responsibility in games. Every time he gets the ball, he's always in the front foot. He always wants to drive and make something happen. Very rarely loses the ball, and without the ball, he's a trigger for the press that we put on sometime. And to think of what he's achieved already at 20 years of age and where he's going to go, he could be one of the greats of all time.
I feel, and you'll know better as players, I think beyond the run that we were on, and whether they were saying we weren't listening or not, the quadruple was on the table. Can a result at the weekend really knock confidence and, the flow that you're in? And off that then, is it a credit to the players or the manager that bring you back up to, as you say, react the way we've seen them do over the season?
The mentality in the club for the last sort of while, because there's all these records all the way along it, it's like, if you win the next 5 games, then that's a new record and all this. Yeah. They've just gone, right, listen, let's just look at the next match. And I think that helps them sort of refocus on things, because you lose a cup semi-final, obviously you're disappointed, but you don't worry about not being in the final. You worry about tonight. You worry about the next game. And I think that's what they've been brilliant at. Everyone wants to focus on a quadruple or whatever it may be. They've just focused on the next match, and that's how they've got it right more often than not. And there will be setbacks along the way, and obviously you lose one, so you lose a trophy in the meantime. But in terms of recovering and getting ready to play the next match, I think these have the perfect setup and this perfect sort of belief we're in the squad to know how to deal with it.
And speaking of setbacks, there was a big one, unfortunately, at the weekend. Kevin De Bruyne. Who are you looking to, Paul, that is maybe, obviously, no one can replace Kevin De Bruyne, but fill that void that we know that he leaves behind him?
He's virtually impossible to replace for what he gives the team, in, as in assists, as in goals, as in being a leader. But, the one man who really stepped up, and there was a few of them when he was out injured last time, was Ilkay Gundogan. And he started taking games with the scruff of the neck, he was scoring important goals, getting assists, running the tempo of play that we had. And I fully expect that to happen now again, and it was crazy to say it, but in that period where Kevin was out, we didn't miss him.
Yeah.
Because we were on a fantastic run of form, really confident, and I thought Ilkay was the catalyst for that.
I guess as well, actually, off that, do you think it's kind of been, you never want to be without De Bruyne throughout any part of the season, but kind of a blessing the fact that these players have been through playing without him, and this isn't the first time it's happening, getting into this crunch part of the season?
Yeah, they know how to deal with it, and I think that helps with the rotation of the squad as well. Players know they play with different sort of units in midfield, a different unit at the back. They change all the time, so they're prepared for any sort of setbacks in terms of players missing games. And it's incredible, because I'm just remembering that when De Bruyne wasn't playing and people were saying, it doesn't matter, you don't need him, but Kevin De Bruyne is one player that you can't replace. He can create goals from anywhere on the pitch, he can score goals, but when he's not being available, Gundogan's been one who's been able to step up with the goals. And Dickie was talking earlier about Phil Foden. He's just a joy to watch, and you would imagine that given the freedom, he can control any game of football he wants to.
Do you think maybe there is something that Pep might look to do if the game presents itself, to move him more into that middle role? As we say, we think we've seen him flourish on the wings, but I always like to maybe see him in the middle. That could be a possibility, I guess.
Yeah, it could, but I think at the minute it's part of the process that Pep's got with him, and eventually I've no doubt that he'll move into the middle and be a world-class central midfielder. But it's hard to take him out of the position he's playing at the minute, because he's doing so well with it. But going forward into the future, without a shadow of a doubt, I think that's what's going to happen. But going back to the point about Kevin being missing, when you're a top player and you're a world-class player and you've got that mentality, you don't want your best player to be missing. You then want to be the best player and take on that mantle yourself. And that's the mentality they've got. And, to go back to Ilkay again, I remember the Chelsea game away at the end of last year. Yeah. And after 10 minutes, we couldn't get the ball off them. He was the one that took the game by the scruff of the neck, as if to say, hang on a minute. But we're Manchester City, we're world-class players, and I'm going to show everybody how good I am.
Yeah. Thank you, Paul. Of course, Aston Villa is our opponent, and a club that Richard mentioned has spent a few years there. We can bring you their team in just a moment, but for you, the biggest surprise team of the season, do you think, Richard, Aston Villa?
Yeah, I think since the restart after the first lockdown, whatever they did in that break, and the manager seemed to take time to reassess what the division was like and reassess the players that he had, and they've been brilliant since then. They've done really, really well. Obviously in the last recent weeks they've sort of faded slightly, but from staying up on the last day last season to being a side now challenging for European places is a great turnaround. And when they first came up, they signed, I think, 15 players.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of players, but not a lot of quality. And then this summer they've sort of signed less but better quality players, and they've gelled them all together as a team, and they look like a settled unit who know what one another's doing. They've obviously got quite a few of their players into the England squad as well, so which shows how well they've done. And it's they're still a few years away from being a team challenging for Europe, but they've already set the sort of base of being able to build from here and improve the club and get them back to where they believe they should be.
And they really were flying, as you say. Actually, at a point, looked like they were competing for one of those top 6, European places possibly. Slacked off slightly. They've lost 11 of the last 13 Premier League games. Where would you pinpoint maybe a little bit of the downfall has been for them, Paul?
I think the most obvious one's Jack Grealish been out, and even though he's missed the last 5 or 6 games, I think he still created the most chances in the Premier League this season, and that's how important he is to them. Ollie Watkins is a fantastic player. I watched him a lot in the lower leagues, and to see him make the step up to be a top Premier League England goal scoring striker now is fantastic, because he works ever so hard. And players like Ross Barkley, John McGinn, who I'm a big fan of. I think because Jack Grealish is in the team, he doesn't always get the credit he deserves. But apart from tonight, I'm really happy for Dean Smith. I know Dean really well. He'd done his trade in the lower leagues, managed against him when he was at Oldham, when he was at Walsall, and he always had aspirations to make that next step. And he's done it the right way. He's learned at Walsall with League 1, League 2, then he's went to Brentford, done really well. And it's his boyhood club, he's a massive Villa fan. To see him doing well after the stick he took last season, because when they were struggling, because he was a local boy, that seemed to be focused on him more. But he's done fantastically well to get what he's got out with the group of players he's got.
And you think, obviously, as well, I'm sure you know a lot of coaches within the game now, but do you hope maybe there is a lesson to be learned in that where maybe other clubs in the past, you react a bit quick, maybe you're a bit rash, but to maybe stick with someone and believe in them, you can actually reap the rewards further down the line?
It's huge to give people a chance. If you hire someone and you believe in them, why sack them after 10 months or whatever it may be? And I think these have done well, because it's almost the belief that when you're a big club, you need to be challenging straight away. Villa dropped off that sort of big club scene, dropped down a division, came back up, and it's going to take them time. And they could have easily sacked the manager at the end of last season, but they believed in what he was doing in the whole project, and giving him that time has given them the ability to have a better side now. And for them, I'm sure they're hoping that they can continue to grow, continue to push on. And if they finish 9th or 10th or 11th this season, it's a huge progress on what they done last year. And then again next year they'll be looking, then maybe they can go a little bit higher, and then it's a success story for Dean Smith.
It really is. What are City looking to do tonight, Paul, to secure these 3 points, and get us that step closer to the Premier League crown?
I fully expect a fast start after obviously the disappointment of the weekend. Control of the game and play with a much better tempo than what they did at the weekend. And with the team that we've got out there, as we always see, we'll press them high up the pitch when they've got the ball. We'll get the possession, but I think it's going to be important, because Villa are going to defend deep like a lot of teams do, is that as much as we'll keep the ball and play in front of them, we're going to need runners in behind to stretch them out a little bit more.
Well, let's take a look at this Villa team that Manchester City are taking on. Or I can tell you we've got around 45 minutes until kick-off, which is an absolute treat. This is how it looks as chosen by Dean Smith. We have Martinez starting in goal. At the back, it looks like Ngoyo, Cash, Mings and Target. Douglas Luiz in the middle with Nakamba. John McGinn also starting, with Bertrand Traore, Ollie Watkins and Jay Ramsey. On the bench, Villa have Tom Heaton, Courtney House, Neil Taylor, Bjorn Engels, Anwar El Ghazi, Ross Barkley, Chukwuemeka, El Mohammadi and Keenan Davis. If this was a full stadium, Richard, and we have all the Villa fans in there, what sort of place is it like to play in Villa Park?
It's really good. It's the old school stadium. It's where the semi-finals used to be played at, because of the atmosphere we're in the ground. And when they're going well, and certainly the first season that I went there, we were challenging Man City to get into the top 4, and we ended up coming, I think, 5th or 6th. But the atmosphere was brilliant. The fans were really behind you, really pushing you forward, and just the noise that came out of the stadium was amazing. So a good Aston Villa team in that full stadium is a better Aston Villa team than it would be normally, if you know what I mean. So it's a shame, obviously, but hopefully soon it's coming back, and it's a really good old stadium to play in.
And we spoke about the runners in behind, Paul. On the other side, though, defensively, do you think we could be tested a little bit today?
Yeah, I spoke about Ollie Watkins already, and the one thing Ollie never does is give up, even when it seems as if he's not in the game. He's always willing to run in behind. He's a selfless striker as well. He doesn't mind doing the dirty side of the game if it helps his teammates out. And obviously, Diaz and Stones, their partnership's been fantastic, but they're going to have to be on it today. But, the team that Dean's picked there he's left quite a few of his attacking players on the bench. And obviously he's got Traore, he's got Watkins, to try and hit us in the break a little bit with the pace, but it looks to me as if it'll be more of a 4-5-1 than a 4-3-3 than what he usually does.
Guess though then as well, there's maybe a worry there later on in the game if they introduce more of them players that they might try and go for that snatch and grab, which City have been on the receiving end of a couple times. How do you go about defending that then if you're kind of keeping an eye on that around the 70-80 minute mark?
Yeah, I think throughout the season City have been really good at doing it, and they've counteracted it really well, because it's been a problem over the last couple of years getting hit on the counter-attack. Obviously Fernandinho's one player who stops it at source, and we've seen it against Leeds here, and he dropped back to centre half, and all of a sudden there was no one to stop it in that middle of the field, and Leeds kept breaking. So they'll understand it, they'll realise it, and I'm sure Rodri will be sort of given that role that if we are going on the attack, we are pushing forward, you need to have the discipline to have somebody in that central zone to stop any sort of counter-attacks. And like I say, they've been excellent at it all season. It's just maybe the Leeds game is where they let themselves down slightly, but it's I just think if City start with a higher tempo than what they did at the weekend and play a game to go and win it, to go and push Villa back from the start, I think after 70-80 minutes hopefully the game will be over.
A quick word on that. I feel, we were kind of saying we know what happened at the weekend, but was it kind of just thinking a tempo was a big part of what we missed after we're so used to, like you're saying, how we go at teams and attack them, Paul? Was the tempo a big loss for us there against Chelsea?
I don't think we didn't play with the tempo that we normally play with, but whenever we do lose, and thankfully it's not very often, as City fans and people involved in the club, we always look at what's going wrong, and we don't necessarily give credit to the opposition team that have done well, and go back to the Leeds game the other week there. I thought Leeds defended as if their lives depended on it, give them credit, and that was a good Chelsea team at the weekend. They've shown it already. They're Champions League semi-finalists as well. So I think sometimes, as much as our tempo and the standard of our play wasn't what it should have been, you've got to give Chelsea a bit of credit for stopping that at the same time as well. Yeah.
If you've just tuned in, Paul Dickov and Richard Dunne joining me on We're Not Really Here. Thank you for coming along. Of course, we have got Aston Villa awaiting us at 8:15, taking place at Villa Park, which is going to bring us one step closer, of course, to that Premier League crown. You've got the team on our Twitter feed as well. If you've just tuned in, you can find it on there. I'll recap it in just a bit. Before we dig into the vault, though, I'm going to ask the gallery, is Abby available to give us a little update on how it's going over at the Academy Stadium? Okay, they're going to get Abby prepped and ready. I've just suddenly thrown them under the bus there. But speaking of the WSL, we of course are taking on Chelsea. That's a top of the league clash, Paul. How good have the women's team been? And if they were to maybe secure the 3 points, that could be quite integral in taking the crown, couldn't it?
Absolutely. Well, there's 2 points between them at the minute. The two best teams in the league by a country mile, and I think Gareth and the girls have done fantastic. They're a slightly slow start, but the form they've been in recently, they're scoring goals for fun. They're scoring like 7s, 8s, 6s, and so it's just ridiculous. But big test for them tonight. But hopefully they can come through.
Hopefully they can indeed. Well, we can now. Abby, I'm sorry, I've come to you a little bit quicker than I should have done, but you're prepped and ready. What is the latest over at the Academy Stadium as Manchester City women take on Chelsea women?
Yes, I am joining you with slightly better news. We have had a goal in the last few minutes. It is now 2-2 here at the Academy Stadiam. Sam Mewis with the equaliser there. We're known for scoring goals late on, so I'm hoping that we're going to get the third to get that 3 points. But Sam, what a player. We spoke earlier with Meg about what a presence she is on and off the pitch. Her leadership today has just been so important for us in getting that goal. I say that, but she has actually unfortunately just gone off. Georgia Stanway's come on to replace her. But again, like I said earlier, piling on the pressure and looking good. Hopefully keep pressing on and get that third goal and hopefully a winner.
Thank you so much, Abby. I thought there was going to be a goal live, and I was going to say, I timed that perfectly. But we will come to you at full time. Hopefully, as you say, talking about that winner. Come on, Manchester City's women. And it has been all the talk this week around the Academy Stadium and here at Manchester City. Of course, our brilliant elite development squad, the EDS. We've covered them a few times here on We're Not Really Here. We watched the Liverpool game that took place over at the Academy Stadium a couple of weeks ago. And of course, as we all know, they were chasing that elusive first Premier League 2 crown, and without even kicking a ball, our boys in blue did it. Blackburn unfortunately couldn't get the win that they needed at the weekend, which did mean that win against Manchester United was enough to make our EDS Premier League 2 winners. So from us all here in the studio and at Manchester City, a massive congratulations. I mean, so brilliant to see, and of course having all gone through the scouting and the youth systems. How big will that be, Paul, for all those young players?
Yeah, fantastic, and huge credit to them all. Talking about the women's team scoring goals for fun, I think they've scored like 6 million goals this season. Every time you see it in Liam Delap. Obviously, a lot of people talking about him bangman for fun. Cole Palmer just looks effortless every time he plays. Tommy Doyle, I think special mention with the captain Tommy as well. He's been the fringes of the first team, but he's been outstanding as well. And some of the goals that they score, this was lovely to see, wasn't it? I'm absolutely battering Manchester United here. But to win the league and win the league how they've done it so soon is huge credit to everybody involved, because there's some serious talent there.
Some really impressive talent. And Rich, I know you work a little bit kind of with some youth teams as well, but when you watch them sometimes, and even there, when you watch that goal, the way they pressed, it is like watching City. And we watched the Liverpool game. I think there was a goal and Cole Palmer looked like Mahrez. Just give an idea for people watching, how difficult is it for these young lads to replicate what we see at the Etihad? Saying this goal, by the way, watch this. That is a Cole Palmer. And I mean,
it's a cracker, isn't it?
Kevin De Bruyne, but I mean, he was another one. I think, I say a couple of weeks ago, looked like Mahrez. How difficult is it to do what they're doing and replicate it?
You just watch any other team in the Premier League or any other team around Europe. Nobody can do what Man City do. They do it to such a high level. I was chatting to the under-10s coach last night after watching the under-10s training, and they were unbelievable how they pressed, how they moved the ball in between each other, and that's from under 10. It goes all the way through the club, and by the time they get to this age, they just know it off to a T. They can do it in their sleep, and the standard not only of the under 23s but all the teams below it is so high and so well coached, so well taught. It's amazing to watch, and it's like you go out and watch the under 10s, 11s, 12s, and it's like watching the first team on a mini pitch, and it works so well for them. The kids understand it really well, and they all improve as footballers.
And sorry, Paul.
No, I just think that's the brilliant thing, and what sets the club apart from everybody else. And the DNA of the club is to play the way the first team play. And I know even in training sessions from under 10s all the way through to these lads here that have just won the league is the exact same what the first team do in training. I've been fortunate enough to go out to our clubs in the City Football Group in Mumbai and Melbourne, see how they play. It's the exact same for their youth system as well. Yeah, the DNA of the club runs everywhere, and it can only be beneficial for the kids moving forward. And how difficult is it going to be for them to push themselves into Pep's team? It's going to be hard because there's world-class players there, but they are ready to make the next step.
And is it the attention to detail that is massive when it comes to, one, implementing the system, but like you say, having a DNA like that run through every club at every age group? Is it the attention to detail that you think maybe sets City apart a little bit? Because we all hear as fans, the facilities, the young teams. I think, there was a point when the under 8s, under 9s, under 10s, I think they all won in the same season. But what are the little things you found you think set them apart?
I think when you look at young footballers and you see them from any academy around the UK or Europe, you look at their technique and how they move their body, how they move the football and all that sort of stuff. A lot of them don't understand how to play football. They all dribble in the wrong areas, they pass, make bad decisions when they're passing. These kids are taught from a really young age how to be footballers and how to use their ability on the ball in the right areas of the field, when to pass it, when to move, how to run off the ball. And that's football, isn't it? At the end of the day, that's what Premier League football is about. It's about movement, it's about tactics, it's about right decisions at the right time. Because the amount of training that they get, they all have the ability, they all have the technique. It's about understanding when to use it and where to use it. And I think that's what sets you apart. I've seen other academies and it's like, right, you get the ball and just dribble as far as you can, see what you like, 1v1s. That's great, but eventually it has to be fitted into a team system, and City have done it from a really young age. And
is that there when we talk about the footballing brain? And it's funny because I think you hear when players talk about training with Pep and they go, yeah, he'd tell me to adjust my body to receive the ball like this, or maybe pass it there and don't dribble. Is that what they talk about when we talk about the footballing brain?
Yeah, they do, and it's the structure within it, because when they do go up to Pep, they need to learn very quickly. So all that stuff that they've done the previous years before, that's ingrained in them. So talking about body movement, where you should stand, when you should pass the ball, when you should play through the lines, they're taught that at such a young age.
Yeah.
So when they make that big step, the next step, that they're ready for it, because you don't get time not to be, especially the way Manchester City's gone. I think all of the academy have got to take huge credit, because they test the players all the time. You know, it's okay having the best players, but, you know, for instance, I know that the under-13s play in the under-14s league.
Yeah.
The 14s play in the 15s, the 16s will play under-18s. And a lot of the under-23s that have played would be the under-18s team. If they stayed at their own age group, they would blow everybody away. You know, but they're moving them up all the time to constantly test them, which is great for them.
Oh, that's fascinating, guys. Thank you for the insight. And, of course, special mention as well to their coach, Enzo, who I know has been instrumental in them winning that Premier League 2 crown. I will get that word out. Right, we can now hear from our manager, Pep Guardiola, of course, who has brought so much of that DNA and the footballing style that we talk about. Here he is speaking ahead of our game against Aston Villa at Villa Park.
I know your focus is on tonight's game. Is it particularly important to be so? Lost your last couple of games, and the gap to Manchester United has got a little smaller than it was.
It's 38 fixtures, football, you know, the league, and there are moments, good moments, bad moments, and sometimes you're up, sometimes down, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. It's important at the end. So, and still we have points to win. And today is the first option, and we're going to try.
When you picked your starting 11 tonight, did you take into account the Carabao Cup final at all?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Premier League is the most important competition. The most important by far. So, after this game, tomorrow off, we're going to think about it, Carabao Cup, but Premier League is the most important competition, and we fought a lot, and we need still, points, 10 points. So, and today we want to start to pick them.
Thanks, Pep.
Thank you, Pep Guardiola, of course, speaking there ahead of our game against Aston Villa. We mentioned it, so I didn't want to bring it up, but there was a slight, look behind you when you go, United have, decreased that gap ever so slightly. Are you concerned or worried about that at all, Richard?
No, I think the history of the season suggests that City don't lose too many games, and certainly with 6 games to go or whatever it is, they're not going to lose enough games for Man United to catch them. You always look, and there was one bad defeat against Leeds, and you go, oh, it's all going to crumble. But this is a different Man City to what me and you played in. These win games constantly, and they understand how to win trophies, this team. They understand how to win important games, and I'm sure tonight they'll get back on track.
And of that, could that happen to, when does that bleed into players sometimes, the team? If you are feeling that, oh, we've lost one game and then you found yourself having lost the one after it that you shouldn't lost, can it cause a little spiral?
I don't think in this team. I think look, we're talking about DNA in players before. I think it's the DNA in the Manchester City fans. Yeah. To worry and always think the worst because they've watched us play before, do you know what I mean? And look, my boys are City fans, a lot of my mates are big Manchester City fans, and as soon as the Leeds defeat happened, they're like, oh no, they're going to catch us, but I can't see, Dunne said there, 6 games left, we've lost how many games? 3 league games all season?
Yeah, 3, that's it.
And can you see us losing anymore? I fully expect us tonight to get it back to 11 points and cruise on in.
Lovely, thank you, Paul. You see, it always is what's great about the show. It just appeases any worries or any little kind of conversations that are going on in my head. If you just tuned in, my name is Cel Spellman, with me, Richard Dunne and Paul Dickov, as we are chatting ahead of our game against Aston Villa. We're going to take a slight pause from present day, go back into the past and dig into the vault. We are going to head to a time around 2002. Boxing Day was the day, and we were taking on Aston Villa. It was Manchester City 3, Villa 1. Richard Dunne, I think this might be a game you may remember. Mark Vivian Foe scoring twice, and of course Ali Benarbia. I think we can bring you some of the goals here. Do you have many memories from this day, Richard?
I need to see it first to see if jigs any memories. It's
Boxing Day is always a funny one as well, I always find, isn't it?
It is, and it's one of those fixtures where you look at the first match of the season, Boxing Day, and the last game of the season to see what it is, and it can throw up some crazy scores. But Mark Vivian Foe scored 2 goals on the day, and he was a great player. He didn't have a long time at City, but he was fantastic while he was here, and he's sorely missed, obviously. But it's nice to look at the memories of him scoring the goals there. I think I played wing back actually and got turned inside out there.
and as far as Benarbia I think is also on the score sheet as well. But we had Nicholas Anelka as well there. It kind of felt like this was where we were kind of changed our DNA slightly at the time.
Yeah, this was I suppose the Kevin Keegan team. He wanted to be an attacking side. He wanted to have all the best players and up the front end of the pitch. And we had some real quality, real exciting team, but probably not got the consistency to compete. But I think after coming up from the Championship, I think we finished 9th maybe in the first season in the Premier League, so it wasn't a bad return. And we certainly had Ali. He was a very, very exciting player, and again another player probably came at the wrong end of his career but still showed what a talent he was.
I think I remember we spoke to him actually right at the start of this kind of series of this season coming back, and it feels like if there was a player made for a Pep team, Benarbia might have been it, Paul.
Yeah, he was class. Look, I was only at the club a short space of time with Ali, and he was just, you could tell, first day in training, Dunne, couldn't you? He was just a super talent. And I remember the lads used to sit and I think he was 34 when he came. I would love to have seen him when he was 24. How good he was, because he sort of went under the radar. Not only had a good career, but I was amazed when you see the talent that he had, that he didn't go on and play for a bigger club before that. And you know what, not just a fantastic player but a really humble guy as well, really good guy. And that the promotion season before, and Dunne saying finishing 9th there, he was a massive part of that.
Well, yeah, and that pass, as well, I was looking at that is good. You still in touch with him, Richard, a little bit, am I right in thinking that?
Yeah, I see him quite often. I said a while ago, we ended up playing beach football over the net a couple of years ago, and this touch and ability was just frightening.
You must have been mad to play that against him.
Yeah, I was just heading it with sand in my eyes to try get over. But his two sons were playing as well, and both of them had the touch and the sort of silky sort of skills that he had.
Of course they did. I think I remember as well when he was on that early show. I think he's still in. I think he speaks to Pep from time to time. I think I remember him saying. So Benarbia, you could always maybe come over and join the coaching staff. We'd love you back at Manchester City. That was the vault. Now we just want to take a moment to talk about and celebrate our City fans who are doing brilliant things. I want to talk to you about a guy called Chris Ingram. Now you might have seen him. He sometimes popped up around the stadium, but with someone like Chris, he's a lifelong Manchester City fan, but also a professional rally driver, winning the 2019 European Championships, the first Brit to do it in 50 years. The most incredible achievement. Well, he has now stepped up to compete in the World Rally Championship in the WRC3 class. First rally of the season starts tomorrow. It's happening over in Croatia, so if there are any keen rally drivers or maybe you're into a bit of high octane sport, this is for you. Get on the socials, give our Chris Ingram a little shout out and follow his journey, because of course we all love to see fellow Manchester City fans doing well, and I've actually seen him here at the stadium a couple of times, and Paul, we were saying as well, he's a really lovely lad, isn't he?
He's a top guy, big blue as well. It was fantastic that he won the 2019, and wish him all the best going forward.
Any of the high octane, cars, a little bit of motorbike racing at all or anything?
Nah, I got the heebie-jeebies just watching that there.
About you, Richard, anything for you?
No, I've seen it actually. I've seen some rally driving on ice over in France one day, and it just looked dangerous. I just thought, no,
that's not for me.
Yeah, just leave it.
Yeah, I'm looking at that going, that's not for me. So I think on ice, definitely not for me. But Chris Ingram, wishing you all the luck from us all at Manchester City. Now, of course, socials is massive for us, and we love hearing from you guys wherever you are in the world. Managed to wangle a little competition till the end of the season, where we are going to be giving away a Manchester City home shirt to one lucky fan every show. How do you win that here hear you ask? It's very, very simple. We are asking to find out your best setup. So wherever you're watching the game, however you're watching it, if you take a little picture or maybe you want to describe it to us in a tweet or on a Facebook message, send it over to us. We're at Man City, or use the hashtag WNRH. And the best setup, as chosen by us all here in the studio and the We're Not Really Here team, will get that Manchester City shirt there. I don't know if that one specifically, because it's actually here all season, but we will send you a Manchester City home shirt wherever you may be. So just use the hashtag WNRH or tag us at Man City. If you've just tuned in, we have got approximately around just under 20 minutes until we kick off against Aston Villa. If you've not seen the teams, we can bring you them now. Our Manchester City team looks like this. Ederson starts in net. Kyle Walker, Ruben Diaz, John Stones, Ilkay Gundogan captain the team, Zinchenko there at left back as well, with Rodri and Bernardo in the middle. And it's a forward three of Riyad Mahrez, Phil Foden and Gabriel Jesus. On the bench, Zach Stefan, Ake, Sterling, Laporte, Torres, Mendy, Fernandinho and Cancelo. Garcia as well, also on there. Unfortunately, no Kevin De Bruyne, of course, who we know picked up a knock in that game against Chelsea. Speaking of that Chelsea game, we kind of touched upon it a little bit before. And Richard, I know you were doing the show. Overall, it just felt like an unlucky bad day at the office, I think, didn't it?
It did. It was always going to be a tough game because Chelsea has definitely improved, I think, since Thomas Tuchel's come in. He's turned them into a side that look like they're ready to win trophies and they're ready to challenge for a league title. I think they will be a real threat next year, and both sides seem to have a mutual respect for one another at the weekend, and there wasn't much in the game or many chances, and Chelsea took theirs, and it was obviously a disappointing result, a disappointing day, but I think it's one of those where you're sort of gauging each other out to see where we're at, and I think City will have learned a lot from the game at the weekend.
I was just about to say, you can't help but think, Paul, we are still very much competing in the Champions League. PSG, 2 legs and then the final. Chelsea on the other side. Is that earmarked as players, and you think, all right, if it does so happen that we come up again, that actually is good fuel for the fire for our boys in blue?
Yeah, it is, and look, Dunne hit the nail on the head there. Chelsea were excellent on the day. Because we've been that good and ridiculously good. I think if we're off it even 0.5%, it gets highlighted even more. Every game we go out to play, and not just the City fans, not just us as watching it. Everybody that's watching the game expects Manchester City to win, and it just gets highlighted even more. And after the disappointment of going in 1-0 down before half time, I thought the second half we dominated. We had Chelsea in the back foot, but it just wasn't to be our day. And on another day we're a little bit more clinical, we moved the ball a little bit more quicker, but because we were 2 or 3% below our usual brilliant standard, it just didn't happen on the day. And I'm sure going forward, we've still got Chelsea to play in the league. We could be playing them in the Champions League final, so I'm sure they'll learn from what happened at the weekend. Yeah, and it's interesting. It's a little bit like, say, victims of circumstance. The standard's been set by ourselves. It's that high that we kind of are now living in a little bit of a false normal, slightly. Of course, though, that's not our only visit to Wembley on the cards. We've, of course, got the game against Villa. Then this weekend, we return for the Carabao Cup final against the Tottenham Hotspurs team without Jose Mourinho. Of course, a big story that broke this week. Richard, how big of a loss do you think that will be for Tottenham ahead of the final?
I think from the outside, when you look at Mourinho's track record, you would say it's a huge loss because he's someone that's been to finals, won trophies, and if you're going to a final, that's the sort of man that you want in your corner. Possibly from the inside of the club, it's a different story. Maybe the players weren't playing with a freedom that they want to. They seem to have played a more conservative style of football, I suppose, and it's a tough one, isn't it? Because it's 6 days before a cup final. If they get a bounce off that and they start to get a bit of freedom and they're playing a bit of, I suppose, more energy, it makes it very difficult for City. And I'm sure Pep he knows Mourinho inside out. He knows what tactics he would use. He knows how the game would be set up. Maybe not now with Ryan Mason in charge. It's a different team, a different setup, and a different tactical battle for him at the weekend.
And off that, I mean, Ryan Mason, what did you make of the appointment of Ryan Mason stepping in, Paul?
Yeah, I thought it was a bit of a strange one, if I'm being completely honest. But obviously, look, he's had a great career. He's He's on the staff at Tottenham. By all accounts, I don't know him, but he's supposed to be a fantastic coach with a great manner about him. And obviously Daniel Levy's obviously seen something to take him through at the end of the season. But it's a huge call.
Massive.
Huge call. Because
and do you think
if there's one manager you don't want to come up against in a cup final or in a one-off game, it's Jose Mourinho, because he knows how to win things.
I think it was the timing thing, wasn't it? Even if it happened on the other side of the final, I think that's maybe what shocked most people. I think player-wise, then, is it going to be more beneficial for the City players coming up against a team without a Mourinho manager, or more beneficial for the Tottenham players, maybe in that they've got the freedom and maybe might play to prove a point, possibly? Although I know results aren't quite going their way at the game that's happening at the moment.
Yeah, I know, but I was slightly surprised when I don't know the result of the Tottenham game at the minute, but I looked at the team and there weren't that many changes. And I know obviously Harry Kane's out injured. I think Gareth Bale came in, but the team was very similar to a Jose Mourinho team. I thought Ryan might have expected Bale to start anyway, or get Dele Alli in there, all the ones that saying had fell out with Mourinho, to put them in the team to see if he got a reaction for him. But it was very, very similar team to what Jose had picked, which surprised me. So it'll be interesting to see what he does on Sunday.
Interesting. And I wondered, actually, they've just told me the guy, Tottenham have come back 2-1. I know they were 1-0 down. Son has scored, so 2-1. There's the reaction that we're talking about. For the players, I don't know if you've ever found yourself in the moment when a manager's gone. Is it quite, I'm trying to imagine what the experience is like. Do you feel a little bit like a lost sheep, or does the togetherness of the team kind of what you kind of come to, I guess?
Yeah, I think when the manager leaves, there's obviously people who are happy, there's people that are upset, there's all different emotions within the dressing room. And if the person who comes in isn't, whether it be a caretaker or whatever, if he doesn't take hold of it straight away, you start to become a little bit, well, I can make a decision here, or he can make a decision, and it becomes, people want to have their own say. So it's important that, certainly for Mason coming in, that he's strong on what he wants and how he wants the team to play, because Tottenham have big characters in their dressing room. They've got players you would look at and probably think, if they're not guided in the right way, they might take advantage of the situation. So it's important, and it's quite impressive actually that they've gone down tonight and recovered and come back and done. So that stands them in good stead for the weekend. But he's like Dickie. I'm surprised he's 29. To take over a Premier League team is a huge deal for him. I couldn't imagine doing it when I was 29.
I tried when I was 39. I was useless, mate. So don't worry about that.
It's so difficult. It's such a big job to go into. A Premier League team is difficult, but to go into a cup final to face Pep Guardiola and this Manchester City team it's a big task for them. But like I say, if they win tonight, they recover from a 1-0, being 1-0 down. It'll give them huge confidence for the weekend.
And then off that, I guess it's even more important that City win today to then take that kind of momentum and a winning energy into the final at the weekend, do you think, Paul?
And then into the PSG game after that as well, so if we can get, and I fully expect us to get 2 wins going into that game next week against PSG, the confidence will be sky high. But even tonight they won't be thinking about the game on Sunday yet. Dunne touching it before and hit the nail on the head. They don't look too far ahead. They keep saying that, so they want to get tonight out of the way, and they'll concentrate on Tottenham and what team Tottenham will put out on Sunday.
And speaking of tonight, we can now go back to our dear friend Abby, of course, who you know across all the online world on Manchester City. She's been looking after the WSL game where our Manchester City women's team were taking on Chelsea women's team, of course, pushing to try and get that win. Abby, how did it end up over at the Academy Stadium?
So full time here at the Academy Stadium. It ended 2-2. My heart is still racing because we very, very nearly scored right at the end there. Lucy Bronze header. It looked almost certain to go in. We were ready to all stand up and start screaming, but very, very narrowly missed. So yeah, 1 point out of that. Obviously not what we wanted, but a point is still a point. And in this competition, which is so tight, is still absolutely invaluable. Should point out there that our equaliser was actually scored by Lauren Hemp. It was a very busy box there. It looked like Sam McMewis. There was a bit of confusion here at the stadium, but it was Lauren.
Sorry, we just slightly got cut off there from Abby, who was just telling us about our goal scorer, Lauren Hemp. She scored that all-important equaliser. It sounded like a bit of a scramble in the box. I think they were thinking about giving it to Mewis, but it was Hemp that got that all-important equalising goal. Just couldn't quite secure that winner, of course, though. I mean, a point against a top of the table team in Chelsea is still no small feat, given how good they've been this season, Paul.
Yeah, and look, talking about Manchester City, Chelsea have been fantastic, big favourites for the Champions League as well, and so a draw is not what we wanted because we're 2 points behind, but I think to come from behind and get that point will be a big boost going into the run-in, and the Women's League this year has been some unpredictable results, so City can just keep doing what they're doing, win the remaining games, they've got a great chance.
And we know as well it's in Manchester City's DNA, and it's very much the theme of the episode tonight to go and do just that. So we will all be behind our women's team, and I'm sure you will be too. Remember, you can follow how they're getting on Twitter and on Instagram and all the social platforms, really. And a massive thank you as well to Abby for covering the game and looking after it as well. Commiserations, but well done to our girls in blue. If you've just tuned in, we've got about 10 minutes, maybe just over till kick-off. Manchester City taking on Villa at Villa Park. Of course, 3 points will help us get that one step closer to winning the Premier League title. Here talking about the game was Richard Dunne and Paul Dickov. Before we maybe get some predictions, mystery blue time. This is where you guys can get involved. If you've been sending in your pictures of your best setup, keep them coming into WNRH. And while you're doing that, you could maybe also send your guess for mystery blue. Tell us, who do you think this is? We're going to have a ganders here in the studio as well. Okay, mystery blue, here we go. There's the hashtag to use if you want to send us your guess. Now, I know the shirt. I think I know. Do you know who it is, Paul?
I think I bumped into him yesterday, actually, yeah.
Okay. What about you, Richard?
I look stupid if I'm wrong now, wouldn't I? So.
I have an idea, yeah. I think it's from an era that me and Dickie played.
Well, I'm glad you said, because that's the shirt o'clock is definitely of that time, isn't it? Okay, all right. We'll maybe get your guesses at half time. If you've got any at home, you know what to do. Send them in to WNRH, and we'll be, of course, revealing who our mystery blue is a little bit later on. Actually, probably do it at full time. We'll get guesses from the guests at half time. And please keep sending in how you're watching the game. One of you could be winning that Manchester City home shirt that will be sending your way. At Man City is how you can get us on all socials. If you've missed the team, let me quickly bring that to you now. Maybe you've just finished work and you're thinking, let me grab a cup of tea. Who has Pep Guardiola chosen? Well, I can tell you, he has chosen this. Ederson starting in net. Kyle Walker, Ruben Diaz, John Stones and Zinchenko at the back. Rodri's holding the middle with our captain Ilkay Gundogan and Bernardo Silva. And it's looking like a forward three of Riyad Mahrez, Phil Foden and Gabriel Jesus. As for the bench, Zach Stefan is on there with Ake, Sterling, Laporte, Torres, Mendy, Fernandinho and Cancelo with Garcia. And I can also bring you, I think, the team that will be taking on at Villa Park. This is Aston Villa's 11. In net, we have Martinez, Matty Cash, Ngoyo, Mings and Target at the back. We have Nakamba, Douglas Luiz and John McGinn in the middle with Bertrand Traore, Ollie Watkins and Ramsey up front with Tom Heaton, House, Taylor, Engels, El Ghazi, Barkley, Chiramuka, El Mahadi and Davies on the bench. So a few attacking options to come on as well if Villa need it, as pointed out by Paul. Do you think this would probably be a little bit tricky then? I think some City fans are thinking, given Villa's run of form, as we said, they've only won, I think they've lost 11 out of their last 13. Usually these games, you go, I think we've got this, but can probably throw up a bit of a curveball if we don't take it seriously.
Can do. I done the game here when they played Villa at the Etihad here, and it was really close, and I think City got the second goal towards the end of the game to win 2-0. And the difference, I think, on the night was they had Jack Grealish, who can dribble them 50 yards up the pitch every time he got the ball. He was outstanding on the night, and they've missed him in recent weeks. And I think I'm one of those looking at the match tonight and thinking we're going to win. I think it's going to be 3-0 would be my prediction for that. I think it's going to be easier than what it was here because of them, the form they're in, because of Jack Grealish not being available. I think it weakens them. It's like taking Kevin De Bruyne out of our team. He is such an important player for them, not just in his assists, in his goals, wherever he does. It's just he leads that team, and they've not been the same since he's been out. So I fancy City tonight.
There's another player as well that I feel we haven't had a chance to mention. I don't think we did much on the home game actually, Richard, but Douglas Luiz, you know, is a name that might be familiar to some City fans. If not, he is of course a Manchester City player. Brought him over for Brazil. He's on loan at Aston Villa. It seems that he's had quite the coming of age season as well, Paul.
He's outstanding, Kel. I remember, I think it was 4 years ago when we signed him. I was in the States pre-season and he played in the games. I think it was against Dortmund. He was outstanding, and obviously he just came into the club. Not a lot of people had heard of him.
Yep.
Even ourselves been out there with the travelling squad, wondering who's this guy, and he saying 4 years ago, so he must have been 19 at the time, and he literally sat in the middle of the park and took the game by the scruff of the neck. And literally everybody was going, wow, who is this? And it's just unfortunate, I think, work permit issues and things like that we couldn't get him. But especially this season, he's been outstanding for Aston Villa. And
we always talk about, we've kind of got Rodri, but, and I hate to say it on the show, but we're very aware that there's the looming, improbability that Fernandinho at some point is going to have to hang up his boots. Hopefully it won't be for another season, but from what you've seen this season, Paul, do you think he has the capability maybe to step in and fill that mould that we are going to have to look to fill at some point?
Yeah, look, Villa's defensive record is fantastic. Yeah. And I genuinely believe a big part of that is down to Douglas Luiz sitting in front of the back four. He's very similar to Fernandinho, a younger Fernandinho, whereas he breaks it up. He's got lots of energy. He loves a tackle, by the way, and when he does win it back, he's very clever with his ball retention. And they'll talk about Mings, they'll talk about Martinez and goal, about the defensive record, but him giving them that cover has been huge for them.
And we noticed there's a bit of a trend, I think, at City, Richard, that we seem to try and have two players in every position. And I guess, hearing what kind of Douglas Luiz is like, and you've seen Rodri, there seems to be enough that they maybe be a good partnership in complementing each other, both that they bring different things to the table.
Yeah, I think did they not sell him? I think they sold him. They have an option to buy him back.
Clause, that's right. Yeah, sorry.
I mean, there has been talk. I've heard talk in the media and different things that City are interested in possibly looking at him coming back because he has been so good this season. It's a hard one because he's playing every week, and whether he's going to play every week if he was to come back here, although there's so many games he possibly would. He's certainly not done himself any harm, I think, playing in the Premier League for Villa this year. He's been very good and looks like a player that, because he knows the way Man City play, he understands the demands of being in a Man City dressing room, that he quite possibly could be a replacement for Fernandinho in the future.
Very, very interesting. All right, predictions time. Richard, we know yours. We'll get it again in just a second. So I'm going to come to you, Paul. We're taking on Aston Villa. How can you see this one playing out?
I was going to go 3-0 as well. Can I stay 3-0?
Of course you can. Yeah.
I'm going to stick with 3-0 as well.
You're feeling the 3-0?
I'm feeling it massively.
That was, of course, your prediction as well. All right, so we may have gone 3-0. Do you want to maybe give me a goal scorer each, possibly? You could see...
Gundogan.
Okay, from Richard.
Phil
Foden from Paul Dickov. Love that. Maybe you guys might have a third as well. Well, listen, we are not far away from kickoff at Villa Park. Remember, City Plus is the place where you can get all things Manchester City, whether that be documentaries or programmes or also full match commentary. Go and check it out. Alistair Mann is looking after the commentary on the game today, and it gives me great pleasure to hand over to Alistair Mann as our team walks out at Villa Park. We'll be back at half-time and full-time and look forward to seeing you there. Enjoy the game. Come on, City.